Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma and Zach Celadonia.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Joe Kuzma, and writing his notes over here to my side, it's wide receiver time. We're going to be talking about swag and those guys that catch the balls with my dude, Zach Flash Celadonia. What's up, man?
I can never spell receiver. Even after, as much as I say it or tweet it, it's always the I before E except after C. It's right there, and I always put the I first, which isn't right.
Let me tell you, it's funny because I was going through some older stuff. I this is a nerd out moment, but I don't know if I even told you about this. Like, from my mom's, I took a bunch of boxes. I used to collect Star Wars stuff, particularly in package action figures, right?
Good case.
Yeah. Well, I have these boxes from back, and I'm talking like back when I was like in high school and early years in college, and the boxes that I stored them in were from Hollywood Video when I worked there. And it's funny you say this. So this strikes the memory. It was RCV apostrophe D because nobody wanted to spell the word receive wrong on the boxes.
It just doesn't look natural with the way it's supposed to be spelled. You want to put that I after the E. I don't know what it is about it.
I know, man. That's just funny that you brought that up because that's literally, I'm just looking at one of these boxes over the weekend. I put it back in the store. I went through some of the stuff. It was really cool looking at. I was like, wow. And it's really well preserved too. I don't know I don't know if I'm going to continue collecting, add a few pieces to it, finish it off. I don't have anywhere to display it. So it's like I collect all of it and it just goes in a box. I feel like that's a crime. So I'm going to have to figure this out. But that's another
whatever
story.
It is, you got to hold on to those things, man, because I recently I have been going down deep dives of like these guys that are selling their Pokemon cards, and it's making me sick whenever I see these cards that I definitely 100% had going for like hundreds of dollars and thousands of dollars. There's certain requirements like they have to be from like the certain year, but considering like I was collecting these cards during the late 90s, I had a lot of these cards that are viewed as super valuable now, and I have no idea what happened to them. Don't know if they were sold in a garage sale. I don't know if I just threw them away. I really have like literally no memory of where my Pokemon cards went. But if I had them, I'd be making a pretty penny right now.
My mom kept like everything. I'll tell you what, like the video game world is like the same thing, like Nintendo 64 and stuff like that. And I found,
oh yeah.
And I found in my stuff a box for Perfect Dark, the video game, like the actual box for the game. And I still have the game, and it still has the inserts in the man. I'm like, sweet, I have the whole thing complete. It's like that makes it like infinitely worth a lot more, even though that one's more of a common game. But depending on what it is, like I know for sure there's stuff that got thrown away, but then there's other stuff that was not among my toy collection, was like Transformers stuff. And they're most of the stuff I got's complete. Some of them are damaged. I mean, I played with them as a kid, stuff like that, but it's cool. I don't know how my mom like did it. Like I know what she did. They were just up in the rafters or in the garage or whatever, but it's amazing how the stuff was preserved. And anyways, there's no segue from that other than I was trying to think of something clever. What's that? Madden video games. Yeah, they're going to announce the cover athlete Wednesday. I have given zero consideration as to who that could be. They already have Mahomes and Brady share it for the 1 year. That you kind of think it would be somebody from Super Bowl or
it'll be
like
Joe Burrow, dude. They're always really not jamming him down our throats.
Do it. Put him on there. We need a Madden curse. That's when AB went crazy. If you go back and look, that's the year he went crazy. I'm pretty sure. So what was it?
I think it'll be Burrow or Josh Allen. That's who I'm betting on.
That's a pretty safe bet. It's got to be somebody in that upper echelon. It's usually it's been a quarterback like forever. I know Adrian Peterson one time, Eddie George one time. Like you got AB 1 year, but Gronk maybe was on there.
I know Calvin Johnson got it the 1 year, but that was a while ago. I'm trying. The most recent non-quarterback may have been AB.
My dude. Hey, you know what? I got it sitting right here. You can't can't actually see it off screen this time the way my camera's positioned, but there it is.
I got one.
Yeah, Troy I got this one. Speaking of like garage sales and finding stuff, it's like there it is, the retro game stuff. PS3, Madden 10 with Troy Polamalu and Larry Fitzgerald on the cover.
That was one of the last quote unquote good ones. I feel like after that, they all started to get really, really repetitive.
Yeah, it all depends. I've been playing Madden since like Madden 93 or 94. Like that's pretty crazy. Like going back, that's Super Nintendo. My neighbor had the Sega Genesis one. He always used to play with the Bears. So he's a Bears fan, obviously Steelers fan. I never played with the Steelers all the time. I've told this story before, like in later years, like that was when the Broncos were like making their Super Bowl run, or like the Rams when you got into like 02, 03. It was fun playing with those teams. Cowboys with like Irvin and Emmitt Smith and Alvin Harper. There's a name for you.
My first owned Madden was the Sean Alexander one. I think that's Madden 07. That was the first one I owned personally. And it's funny how playing that game, like how the shitty teams were back then, it like stuck with me forever. Like I always view the Raiders, Niners, and Saints in this like lesser category of the other teams, because those were like three of the worst teams in Madden for like so many years in a row.
Yeah.
Basically until the Niners got Harbaugh, and until the Saints got rolling with Sean Payton, they were terrible, like in the video game. And then it kind of switched, obviously, especially with the Saints winning a Super Bowl and the Niners being competitive all the time now. But something about those being my early years of learning football, I always think the Niners, the Saints, and the Raiders just suck because they were like 60s overall in Madden 07.
Yeah, and I mean the Steelers, they were still kind of fun to play with sometimes. On defense, I'd always play with Casey Hampton right in the middle. I like playing with defensive linemen. Now I'll play with Cam. Sometimes I'll play with TJ Watt, but it's like only if I'm blitzing. Like I'm terrible in playing coverage players like in Madden.
They say if you don't use coverage players, you're scared.
I am scared. I don't like playing defense. It's like I'd rather play offense, man. It's like pound the ball with Bettis. If you're one of those kids
who like can get it down, you can be dangerous with like a really good safety. But I don't have the time for that. I would also just play on the defensive line. I was a big edge rusher guy because there were like two buttons you could click, either try to beat the tackle off the line just with the snap count, or like do a easy like spin move inside, and a good way to get a sack.
Yeah.
I was a big career mode guy playing Madden. I wouldn't usually play games by myself unless it was career mode related. If I was playing with the team, it usually was because I was playing with friends.
Anymore, man, playing the games too, like you're saying, it's like I used to be able to just pick up and play them, and now it's got to go through this whole thing, and it's like, hey, create your own like avatar and stuff. No, I just want to throw on the game, and I'll take the Steelers. And why aren't they ranked 90% or better? Like, it always pisses me off. But anyways, that'll be interesting to see, because then they'll come out with this game. It'll be interesting to see where they put Kenny and they'll give him no respect. They'll give him no respect, like at the initial. Now, as the season goes on, maybe they'll adjust. They do the adjustments, because they didn't even give TJ his due. But
yeah, or Minka. I remember Minka's rating last year was like 87 or something before the season started.
Which is a good. Now that's actually a good segue now for the wide receiver room for the Steelers. No topics bar today. We're just going raw here once again. So sorry, no chapters on YouTube. Ain't nobody got time for that, because we really don't know how much we'll have to say. But what do you think? Like Steelers wide receiver room. I guess like first question would be better than last year, because I believe so. I think so. I mean, I thought they were going to be really good last year, but then Chase Claypool, and then he ended up getting traded. I had high expectations, but now you kind of change over. Okay, Deontay Johnson, he's still there. You didn't know if he was going to get extended and be here this year, and the whole quiet quit during camp and things like that. George Pickens is a rookie. A lot of hype on his name. A lot of hype still going to be entering year 2. But now you have you had some maybe excitement for Calvin Austin. You didn't get to see him. And I got to see him a little bit in camp, and then that's kind of like where it ended. He ended up on injured reserve, of course, and didn't play for the year. So you're going to have him added to this mix. Allen Robinson brought in, a few other names, Miles Boykin, Gunnar Olszewski, and Hakeem Butler. So there's only so many spots. It's going to be interesting to see how many receivers they keep, and who they will keep after all the dust settles later this summer.
Yeah, I think it's definitely better. I think it's pretty easy to see. Even if you're somebody who doesn't follow along the Steelers that well, they really only lost Claypool, and they lost him halfway through the year last year. So he's long gone. I don't even think about Chase Claypool anymore. And you have the additions of Allen Robinson and Calvin Austin III, who, by all accounts, is having a good first couple of OTAs. It isn't camp yet, but they're running around in jerseys and helmets. And coincidentally, this morning I ran across a clip from the All Things Covered podcast, which is hosted by Bryant McFadden and Patrick Peterson, now current Steeler and former Steeler. Well, there was a good quote from Peterson as he was talking about Calvin Austin and his speed and how he's coming off in these early practice sessions against the secondary. And Peterson was mentioning that he's very fast, number one. So you love hearing that. And he said there was a play where he was covering Austin or trying to cover Austin, and he gave him some kind of like stutter and kept going. And Peterson had to, he calls it, he busted out one of his patent moves where he'll reach out and grab the guy's jersey and pull himself closer, but do it discreetly so he doesn't get flagged for holding. And he made it seem like he wasn't expecting to have to do that against Calvin Austin, a virtually a rookie because of last year. And they said they were watching film in the secondary room, and the secondary coach said to everybody, nobody let Peterson know that 19 can move like that. Maybe we should have let Patrick Peterson know that 19 has that, because he's sticking out in a good way, which is what you want to hear, because coming off of a foot injury, they're not in pads just yet, but this is the time where you want to be sure that his foot is healthy and see him running around at full speed, albeit without tackling going on. It's still a crucial time where soft tissue injuries can flare up or get worse. And by all accounts, that it hasn't gotten worse for Calvin Austin, which is great to hear. So you've got the additions of Allen Robinson and Calvin Austin. You lose Claypool, which really isn't that big of a deal just based off of how last year was going. And they ended up getting great value in return, as we all know, the 32nd overall pick. Love George Pickens. I think he will slowly but surely take over the number one role as the season goes on this year. And depending on who you're talking to, that can be viewed as a hot take. I really don't think that it is. I think the writing's on the wall that he will be the number one receiver for the offense when it's all said and done by the conclusion of the season. Albeit Deontay Johnson does hog up a lot of targets, and rightfully so, because he's a great route runner and he's open a lot. And when he's on, he's on. But when he's off, he's off. And that's what I think opens the door for Pickens to succeed him and be the one over time. And as far as the hype surrounding George Pickens, it is at a very high level for sure, especially the farther you get into the Steelers fan base, the more people believe that this guy is going to be the next big thing at the receiver position. However, some national heads, for instance, this is a great segue, I believe anyway, that I was watching Good Morning Football this morning when I woke up, just trying to get my legs down, get my bearings, maybe help get the start of the show going for us. And they had a segment, Peter Schrager did his top 5 wide receivers to break out next season, this upcoming season, 2023. And George Pickens was not on the list. Once he got past number 3, I was sitting there like, oh, wow, okay, he has Pickens number 2 or number 1. Nice. All right. And then he names number 2, and I'm like, I don't know if he'll be number 1, maybe. And then he names number 1, and it was Garrett Wilson, number 1, who won Rookie of the Year last year. So I'm not sure what qualifies as a breakout season. I would argue that Garrett Wilson has kind of already arrived. Number 2, he had Chris Olave, who had over 1,000 yards last year. Again, I already feel like he kind of broke out. And number 3 was Drake London. So I think that Pickens had a right to be on that list. Personally, I am biased, but I did like kind of seeing that the national media still is. They may not be totally asleep on George Pickens, but some of them have one eye closed. And that can be good for a guy like Pickens, who tore it up last year by Steelers rookie receiver accounts. But you don't want him getting too big of a head. So who knows how much TV he even watches, but not everybody is as sold on George Pickens as you and I are, it may seem. And then you got guys like Miles Boykin, who I believe has a leg up on that next tier of receivers on the Steelers roster, because Miles Boykin did a great job on special teams last year for the Steelers, and he was brought back on a 1-year deal, assumingly because of that special teams value. He didn't do much on offense last year. Good blocker. And then it's a real cluster. That bottom 4 of Gunnar Olszewski, Anthony Miller, Cody White, and Hakeem Butler. I feel like if they are to keep 6,
Yeah, I
it could be
forgot
any
about
one of
Miller.
those guys,
Yeah.
but they may just keep 5. I'm pulling for 6 because I think there could be some value squeezed out of that bottom 4, whether it's Gunner, whether it's Hakeem Butler or Anthony Miller or Cody White. One of those guys I feel like could contribute to this team. But it's going to be tough. It's an uphill battle because as of late, the Steelers have only been keeping 5 receivers, and this year it may be harder than ever for them to keep 6 with the crowded tight end room we have and other areas on the roster where they may feel it makes more sense for them to keep an extra body. D line is a common area where they'll sacrifice a receiver to keep an extra D lineman, but all of this is a long-winded question, a long-winded way of me answering your question. That yes, I do feel like the Steelers' receiver room is in a better spot than last year, certainly.
Came around to it there. Yeah, and some smart ass somewhere is going to rag on Deontay Johnson. Oh, dude had no touchdown catches last year, and I'm not in that camp. He led the Steelers. Oh, he drops passes. He led the Steelers with 86 receptions. He had 147 targets that were thrown his way. Yeah, could catch percentage have been a little bit better. He also, maybe he had some synergy with Mitch Trubisky, but it was only on those comeback routes. It was almost
Yeah, right. The
every
comeback
single one.
around the world, they ran that play all the time, and it always worked. And credit to Mitch. It had more to do with Deontay because that route, if you run it well, it's impossible to cover a comeback route one-on-one. If you really sell it, the guy gets flipped around. And I've seen cornerbacks blow their knees out before trying to cover a comeback route because the receiver flips around that quick.
Yeah, and people will say, well, he lost yards or went backwards or whatever. Well, that's part of it, and part of it was just he's still one of the most slippery guys in the NFL when it comes to just the route tree, his route running, and also being able to break tackles.
And Kenny likes him.
Yeah, well, and you got to remember that Kenny didn't have all of that offseason time with the ones, and then Deontay was doing the quiet quit type thing too, where he wasn't out there. So Calvin Austin, that might have been part of the problem why Calvin Austin had his foot. You got to remember with the rookies, and part of the problem that happens is they don't get a break. They go from like the college season, maybe they play in a bowl game like at the beginning of the year, New Year's, and then they're immediately into training and prepping and getting ready to be like, what was he? He was one of the fastest guys at the combine last year. So you go through all of that training and immediately, okay, now you're into the NFL draft, you're in the hopper, you got to do the rookie mini camps, and you're doing all the other mini camps and off-season workouts that the veterans end up doing. And now he's right, you're in the summer and it's hot and it's warm, and maybe he's doing more reps as a rookie than he was anticipating. And I'm sure the Steelers got everybody like on their pitch counts and everybody's monitoring health and stuff like that. But the thing is, you could overtrain. So that foot got whatever happened to it. I can't remember exactly. I don't remember if it was like a muscle thing, a bone thing. I don't recall. But with Calvin Austin, they tried to bring him back and then he wasn't healthy. So that sucks. They obviously thought he was going to be back, and then he re-aggravated it, and they didn't get to see him at all because then you had to go back on injured reserve. You can't come back after. It isn't like you get you get one mulligan. That's about it. So
the closer we get to actually seeing Calvin Austin in action for Steelers, the more I feel like it's just being confirmed how high they are on this kid and how much trust they have in him. Like, he's a 4th-round pick for sure, all things considered. But the fact that you just mentioned they tried to bring him back last year off of the temporary IR and weren't able to do so. They maximized their time trying to bring him back and weren't able to do so, but they clearly wanted to. And they didn't add a burner this offseason. And I've mentioned this before that really had me perk my ears up as far as realizing how the Steelers felt about Calvin Austin deep down was they didn't try to get any other receiver in here who has elite speed. Pickens, Deontay, they both can push the field in a sense, and they both showed last year they're good at going deep, air quotes. Kenny can rip off a 35, 40-yard pass to one of them, but Calvin Austin has a completely different level of speed. He has a different gear. He can be that guy who's like 3 or 4 steps behind the guy trying to cover him. Or as I like to say, he could be the only guy on the TV screen. Like, he can be that open if he maximizes his health in the Steelers offseason and is able to play when the season gets underway. And I don't want to forget this. Another thing that Patrick Peterson mentioned about Calvin Austin on that little clip that I saw from his podcast was what caught Peterson's attention was he noticed Calvin Austin was lining up outside. He's a tinier guy. He's a very short guy. He's like 5'8.5", 5'9". But he doesn't, and you would expect receivers of that stature to be more of a slot receiver, almost exclusively, almost never line up outside. But Calvin Austin does, and Peterson highlighted this because he's like, when I saw that, it made me realize, okay, this guy really does know what he's doing, or he's got elite speed. Usually, if you're that size and you're on the outside, it's because you are a seasoned veteran that's seen it all before. Like Steve Smith is a short guy who would line up outside. Antonio Brown, obviously, is another one who comes to mind. Emmanuel Sanders. But Calvin Austin does it because he has that next gear. He has a speed where you don't want him. Yeah, you can put him in the middle, but you'll put him in the middle. If he runs a deep route from the slot, chances are he's going to get mixed up in traffic or, a safety playing over top. When you have speed like he does, it makes more sense to line them up outside close to the numbers because it's just him in the corner more often than not racing down the field. If you put him in the slot doing that, he's got to get through the trash in the middle with the linebackers and then run against, assumingly, a safety and a cornerback. But they put him on the outside, so it's just him versus a corner. And you could expect to see that this season. He will line up on the outside if he's healthy.
Oh yeah, and they're gonna they're gonna do something ridiculous with either of the tight ends or even George Pickens. Like, if you notice the way a lot of criticism for Matt Canada, but one thing that they adjusted and figured out later in the year was they put George Pickens in the slot. And how many times, I think I may have seen you may have even tweeted something out, or we just maybe talked about this. It was like, oh, you could see where the ball is going right out of the break. It's like
versus Browns.
There it is.
Browns,
yeah,
it was the same play as the Raiders touchdown to end the game. Franco Harris night. Kenny Pickett hit George Pickens across the middle, which was like a skinny post in the end zone coming out of the slot. And versus the Browns at home, towards the end of the season, they lined up in the same formation down at the same end zone, almost the same distance away. And I know I wasn't the only one in the stands, but I was like, this is a touchdown to Pickens. Right?
Oh,
You
yeah.
saw it coming.
Yeah.
That give Canada credit for recognizing we have something here with George Pickens in the slot. It works.
Yeah, but to your point is having Calvin Austin go line up on the outside now, that's going to create some problems with that, and especially with his speed, that pushes some DBs a little bit deeper, even the safeties. It's going to create maybe some opportunities in the middle of the field, maybe some stuff. I know the middle of the field seems like taboo when we're talking about that and Matt Canada in the same sentence, but we're being promised there's going to be some changes to the offense, so we'll get there. But back to my dude Deontay Johnson too. I know he didn't have any touchdowns. He also led the team in yards, 882 yards. He didn't have any touchdowns. Pickens led the team actually in receiving with 4, and believe it or not, Najee Harris with 3. This is a team that only had 12 combined passing touchdowns, and one of those came from Chase Claypool. So 11 from quarterbacks. It was miserable. It was miserable.
I was going to mention that when you brought up Deontay's no touchdowns and how people rag him for that. I'm like, well, to be honest, didn't have much help the fact that we only threw for 12 on the season. So you gotta give Deontay that little bit of understanding, being like, yeah, he had no touchdowns last year, but we weren't throwing many touchdowns last year. This year, by all accounts, should be very, very different.
Yeah, and having Austin there, I mean, Allen Robinson's brought in just in case. Austin's still effectively a rookie, having not played any regular season snaps, so it's there as a veteran presence. So you already have your top 2 guys. You have Johnson, and you have Pickens. Now you have your pick of either the next 2, and then when you get to that bottom of the roster, I do believe at one point they did have 6 at one time. It may have even started out with 6, but I think Steve Sims was maybe called up. I don't think he outright made the 53, if I recall correctly. I'd have to go back and look. In fact, I think I will look just because it'll bother me now. And I like to be right because some Yinzer will jump in the comments here and be like, well, see, this is when they signed him, like to this date. And it's like, come on, you didn't know that off the top of your head.
I was just thinking someone's probably going to rip me apart in the comments for not giving enough credit to Allen Robinson, who I've already praised on this show before, but just to reiterate, I do think he's the 3 right now for sure, especially because he's the veteran they went out and acquired, albeit not for much, didn't cost him much, but he is the 3 right now, and he's going to be the 3 all season long unless something crazy happens where Calvin Austin just overtakes him because he's that good, or heaven forbid, Robinson gets hurt. But I'm liking everything I hear about Robinson helping tutor the young guys. Because by all accounts, Deontay is the veteran of the homegrown guys, but he is still young. He is still learning. Pickens is obviously very young. Calvin Austin, very young. And Robinson, similar to Patrick Peterson on defense, is really doing well in this role, from what I'm hearing anyway, this leadership role with the younger guys, because Peterson's dealing with it with the cornerback room, and Allen Robinson is dealing with it in his own way with the receiver room. And all the little videos I'm seeing on Twitter and all the videos the Steelers website is putting up shows a good connection from what you can see between Kenny Pickett and Allen Robinson. A lot of the throws are on the money. Now, that may be because Robinson's not the fastest guy in the world, so maybe his timing isn't that hard to get down. Maybe he's a very quarterback-friendly receiver, but still, you like seeing that kind of thing. And I think he can have a great season for the Steelers. If you look back to when they had Jericho Cotchery in 2013, 2014, I think his style of play is very similar to Cotchery's, and I think they're at similar stages in their careers as to when the Steelers had Jericho Cotchery in here. They both were in year 10. Robinson's in year 10 right now, so I think Robinson will do well for the Steelers. I do.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Opening roster. Let's see. Cody White was on the practice squad. I was just kind of curious because I think, okay, here we go. Claypool, Boykin, Pickens, Johnson, and then let's see. There's 4 wide receivers. Who am I missing? And Steve Sims. Steve Sims did make the 53. So the guy that got cut off of that was Austin at one point. And
what about Gunner?
Yeah, Gunner should be here. I wonder if he's listed as. Oh, there he is. So they did have 6. There you go.
That's my bad then, because I've been saying on the show they've been doing 5 for a while now.
They did. They fluctuate. I mean, 6 was kind of abnormal at one point, but the room has been so loaded. We're going to compare it against some of the other rooms. It's kind of weird because I'm already looking at the Bengals here, as that was the opener last year. But yeah, Gunner was the punt return, kick return guy. I think that's what he's got to offer. Again, he can't like screw up here or he's off the roster, because Austin can do this. But I'm trying to think who else might, because that's not like Boykin's wheelhouse. You know what I mean? I don't think they're going to have Allen Robinson, or they've never had Deontay back there. And I don't think they do that with Deontay, because Tomlin for the longest time was trying to pull AB from those duties. And there was always this controversy about having your star receiver also returning kicks or punts and maybe getting hurt as part of that. He wasn't a kick returner anymore, but they'd have Juju do some of that on the kick return when he was just a rookie. Austin, if he shows that he could win that job, then that spot, that might free up something there. But I don't know what else you do. Like, I liked Anthony Miller a lot. And it should be said too with Austin from training camp last year, where a lot of people had their hype on Mitch Trubisky being the starter. He made Mitch look good a lot of times. Austin made some plays out there. I was very impressed with his hands, his ability to control the ball down to the ground, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm hoping.
He caught a sick deep ball, though, one practice I was at from Mitch. And yeah, he was like diving down, like wasn't full extension diving, but he was falling down as he caught it. So it was definitely an impressive catch on his part. Calvin Austin, I mean.
Yeah, Calvin Austin overshadowed by George Pickens, though. Like
that's
the thing. Like if Pickens wasn't there, and Pickens wasn't already like, Pickens walks in and he's like beyond NFL ready, right? He's like up here, not down here in the middling levels of the roster, and that just overshadows Austin as well. And you already had Claypool, and you already had Deontay and stuff like that. So
that same practice, George Pickens had a deep catch. I think it might have been from Kenny actually, but it was a deep like fade. Couldn't have been more than like 20, 25 yards, but he cut back and then went to the middle of the field, and he was the only guy like in the middle of the field, and he scored a touchdown. And so, yeah, even in that practice alone, Austin was overshined by something Pickens did. And that actually, I'm looking forward to seeing that part of George Pickens' game kind of evolve. Tomlin's even famously been mic'd up during a game where he was ragging George Pickens about, hey, why don't we get some yards after the catch here? And I've like made jokes about Pickens on my Twitter being like, this guy really is Plexico Burress reincarnated as a modern day receiver, because a lot of his catches were either he would catch and immediately go down, or they were diving catches, or they were sideline catches, or they were touchdowns. And I'm not taking anything away from Pickens, but somebody with his ability and his athleticism and what he showed in camp last year, I'm looking forward to seeing him make more plays with the ball in his hands, as opposed to making just the really impressive, flashy catches and going immediately down, whether or not it's because he's diving already or whatnot. But I know this year, Tomlin himself and the fans, speaking for the fans now, we're all looking forward to seeing him kind of grow that part of his game because it's in there. We saw it in camp. Is what I'm getting back to here.
Oh
Is
yeah.
he didn't do it as much during the season, but during camp he was doing a lot of run after the catch.
That's kind of where Martavis Bryant started coming on too,
Yeah.
especially year 2. And it's kind of funny because I think this is the best group that the Steelers have had since that group that was like AB, Juju, Martavis Bryant, 2017. I'm trying to think who else was a part of that. It might have
I would
been
agree with that. You had Eli Rogers for
Eli.
1 year.
Eli and was Ryan Switzer all the way back then too, or no? I'm trying to.
I
I
know
gotta go back and
Eli
look.
was here because that was like we had Eli for 1 year where he was like on the scene, Eli Rogers with those three, and then like the next moment we lost Martavis, and it was like a domino effect after that. I think we had Hayward Bay still.
Oh, I remember. Yeah, Hayward Bay, but Justin Hunter. That's who I was thinking of. Yeah. Eli was still around when they brought Switzer in, and that was the year he got suspended and missed like 3 games or whatever and almost kind of lost his spot, but that was still a little ways off. So this would have been what, Juju's rookie year? Yeah, 2017. And Juju kind of exploded on the scene because he had 2 other dudes like with him, you know what I mean? So it's like when you can't guard them. So we're just telling you, watch. A lot of people are like, well, is Allen Robinson washed? Or, oh, Calvin Austin, we haven't seen anything from him. Just watch out. Just watch out. That other guy's going to eat. So, and Hayward Bay, I mean, Hayward Bay was good for like a rushing touchdown once for the season or whatever, but Miles Boykin really is just special teams, just like DHB was there.
Yeah,
and
it's
then,
like a wash.
And then Ben got Justin Hunter killed, and that was the end of his career, trying to dive for that ball. Looking around the league, though, let's see. AFC North. Let's do the obvious elephant in the room. Yes, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. They drafted Charlie Jones. That room's really good. We don't have to say anything else about that, I don't think.
Yeah, just move past that.
Move past
way
that.
past that. Never want to see that again.
I don't know how to feel about so the Ravens have Odell, and I'm not an Odell fan. I don't see it. They overpaid him a lot. They have Rashad Bateman, who's ready to get some splinters in his ass on the bench, depending on what happens in this camp, with Zay Flowers, who they took, first rounder, and Nelson Aguilar. They still have like Devin Duvernay and James Prochet, and it's like, okay, they have Andy Isabella. Like, they have just like a ridiculous amount of receivers. They're really trying to throw everything at the fan here. That could be a dangerous group, but I'm not going to take that group over the Steelers group right now. I'm sorry. There might be a little bit of ceiling there, but I mean, Bateman still hasn't shown it. Aguilar, has he ever shown it? And Zay Flowers, he's rookie. Zay Flowers is the one. It's one of those players like we talk about. It's like, damn it, Ravens, why are you taking players that I like? Stop doing that. I really hate when they do that. So it's hard for me to say anything bad about Flowers. And I'll bring up the Browns real quick for you too. Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones, who I think is really outplayed being a 6th round pick out of Michigan. Elijah Moore, they got in a trade from the Jets. Sorry, he's not really going to be an answer. David Bell still really didn't do much last year. They added Cedric Tillman, who I did like, out of the 3rd round. It's like each year they keep adding somebody out of the 3rd round, trying to be like the Steelers. Before that, it was Anthony Schwartz. If he hasn't found his way out of town, he will be shortly. So it was like Schwartz, Bell, now it's Tillman. They have another journeyman with Marquise Goodwin that's sitting there. But overall, like the top of their depth chart, like, I don't know. I still don't feel that Watson's going to get it done. He could, this team, they've had better receiver groups that have underperformed. I don't feel it. And a lot of people are thinking, well, what if DeAndre Hopkins goes there? What's D-Hop right now? 31, about to be 32. This is when the receivers fall off of a cliff. It's that last like glory year. Let me get his age right appropriately here. June 6th. Okay. So he has a birthday coming up, and right now he's 30. So he will be 31. That's it. It's the end of the road right here for D-Hop. If he isn't already kind of like, this is why the Cardinals let him go. They ate this money because they just feel he's not going to be an asset for the team. Now you keep hearing like the Ravens, like that'd be classic Ravens move, or I don't know where they find this money for it. Same thing with Cleveland. Go ahead, eat the rest of your cap. Take this guy, because I'm sorry, I don't feel threatened. I don't feel threatened by either of those receiver groups with the Ravens or the Browns, and I certainly wouldn't take them over all the rest we said with the Steelers.
Yeah, Hopkins is the rare superstar that like the needle doesn't move much for me either as far as being concerned if the Ravens or Bengals or Ravens or Browns go after him. The Browns, funny enough, don't really need him, but by all accounts, they went out of their way to acquire DJ Moore, and Donovan Peoples-Jones has been solid for them. Amari Cooper is their star. I guess if they were to acquire him, that would be saying Donovan Peoples-Jones is on the trade block, but it just doesn't, it'd be kind of forced. They don't really need him. They just invested draft capital in Tillman. You know, there's excitement around that kid from Tennessee. They drafted David Bell last year. And you got Schwartz, the kid from Auburn, who the Steelers like. If they cut Schwartz, remember this day, the Steelers might be in on that because they liked him.
Where do you fit him in? He's a straight line burner, but where do you fit him in? He's had the dropsies.
So far in the future, I'm talking like you never know. Like this isn't like right now with our room. We don't need him right now, but the Steelers love keeping tabs on dudes, and for whatever reason, when we showed interest in him, Schwartz, from Auburn, it was a big headliner, and everybody was talking about it. And then the Browns picked him. So just a name that sticks out to me there in that group as a guy who probably won't make the team this year. And if he went to the Ravens, again, that doesn't really concern me because their offense doesn't need a guy like that. They've already drafted a receiver in the first round this year. They went out and gave Odell Beckham a whole lot of money. And they have guys like Devin Duvernay, who already has chemistry with Lamar. And it doesn't make sense from an offensive scheme standpoint for them to go from a run-heavy first offense, including the quarterback who runs a lot, to, okay, now we're going to throw it 40 times a game, and we're going to try to feed all of these mouths, Odell Beckham, Dave Flowers, and now DeAndre Hopkins. It doesn't seem plausible to me.
Yeah,
the Bengals don't need him, obviously, so they're kind of like irrelevant to this topic. And they have the best room. The Ravens room, I don't feel confident in, mainly because they're going off of complete like hope and potential. Like, hopefully Odell Beckham is healthy. Hopefully Zay Flowers isn't a bust. It's too circumstantial to confidently pick that room ahead of the Steelers room. And the Browns room, really, I think Cooper is a good player. I think that's evident. Peoples-Jones has been solid. Elijah Moore can be good, but he's more potential-based as well. So I think the Steelers have a right to sit in line firmly at second place there in this division for the receiver room.
It's crazy that Cooper caught like 9 touchdowns last year, and we're talking about the Steelers quarterbacks only throwing for 11 total. Yeah. I know it sounds like we're crazy saying this, but it worked out. It's just I was kind of more curious. By the way, Odell will be 31 in November as well. So, and he was out of football last year. I don't know what kind of player he's going to end up being.
They sign Hopkins, it'll be like the Golden Girls over there. A receiver room.
It is. That's like, it's really the age, like your running backs are out at 30, your receivers are out at like 31, 32. Some of your DBs start to gracefully kind of go out into the sunset. At least like in that case.
Not Patrick Peterson though.
I mean, Peterson could play in other spots, or that pseudo kind of like, they have, what do they call that? Where the guy like sinks. One of the Cam Sutton used to do it all the time. He was
Single
playing
high.
Yeah. He would end up all the way back. Joe Hayden would do it, but Joe Hayden like got beat. That's like every time Joe Hayden got beat was where you'd have to fill in that role and kind of play that single safety in the back with whatever scheme. So it's escaping me right now. I want to say Joker or Yankee or something like that, and it's not like one of those is not the right word for it. But yeah, Cooper.
Robber.
What's that?
Robber.
I don't think that's what I'm looking for either. I don't confuse me anymore right now on it. It's like, to be completely honest, because I just like I'm not finding the right words. This has been happening a lot with me recently on the show. Like I can't think of the. By the way, Elijah Moore. I think you said DJ Moore earlier. I'm not trying to correct you. I just want to make sure we're on the record properly.
Oh yeah, it's definitely possible. There's a lot of names in front of me here.
Yeah, DJ's elsewhere. You know what? Let's jump over to the
because I have DPJ and then Moore. Close together.
That makes sense. Buffalo Bills, Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, Deontay Hardy, Khalil Shakir. Let's lightning round these a little more. We'll never get through this whole thing. So Bills,
Their rooms, I say the room's really good. The Bills.
yeah, it's because of Allen too. So, but Diggs is definitely better than anything that I could say confidently. He's above anywhere where the Steelers are. He's like another
I like
AB.
Shakir more than I like Gabe Davis too. Shakir had a really good rookie year last year, really under the radar.
Yeah, 5th round pick. I really liked him coming out of college too. Dolphins have an interesting room because they have Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill. They signed the other Cedric Wilson that was from the Dallas Cowboys previously.
It's his son.
Yeah, that's Junior. So it's Cedric Wilson Jr. So let me see. They got
signed
anybody else?
Robbie Anderson too, right?
Yeah, Robbie
Chosen Anderson.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Robbie, or is he Robbie Chosen? I don't know what the hell he's calling himself these days. So that guy's he's a nut. He's an absolute nut. And I'm not sure it's for the better either. He's going to end up like out of the league because he's nutty. He might
That's
not
how
even
you know
make
he's
the team.
so fast. He keeps getting chances. Like, oh, at least he can run.
Yeah, I used to like him once upon a time, and then it's like, you know what? I'm kind of cool with them just kind of moving on.
Yeah.
Like
when he was a free agent leaving the Jets, I liked him a lot.
That's not the okay, so he's chosen Anderson now, formerly Robert Steven Anderson. Yeah, whatever, dude.
I know he's changed the name of Robbie like 3 times. He was Robbiy.
Yeah.
Robby. He's done it like, and now he's changing the name outright.
Yeah. Well, whatever. You could be. You watch Ted Lasso at all?
I don't, but I know that's like a mistake. Everybody loves it.
Yeah. Well, they got like this star player on Ted Lasso's team there. It's like he's like supposed to be in the mold of one of these European superstar soccer players, and he told one of the other guys you could be whatever you want to be with his name, and so the guy changed his name. I won't spoil it any further than that, but it's hilarious.
I don't have much ground to stand on. You're talking to a 29-year-old grown man who calls himself Flash.
Yeah, that's okay. I used to call myself Prodigy. So anyways, let's move on. We're gonna get deep in it.
Both good rooms to bring it back here. Both really good rooms that I would sound very biased to be like, yeah, the Steelers room is definitely better than those two. They're really good rooms, and I mean, yeah, they're top heavy, but that's how most of these rooms are. You
mean to tell me Deontay Johnson isn't better than Tyreek Hill and George Pickens isn't better than Jalen Waddle? Get out of town, bro. Like, no, the Steelers are better there. Like, no, I could be. Now, this one, though.
I'm trying to save us the hate.
Yeah. Devontae Parker, Kendrick Bourne, Juju Smith-Schuster, and then a pair of 6th-round picks, Kayshon Boutte and Demario Douglas for the New England Patriots.
They have Thornton too,
and Tyquan Thornton,
probably going to be one of their best receivers this year. Tyquan.
Yeah.
But aside from him and Juju, I got nothing that I like about that room. And Juju, the love there is very biased. I'll admit that right away. So I don't know how good he's going to be for them. I know he's wearing number 7. That's pretty sick.
Yeah, I don't know why Juju bounces around the way he does, but look at where he's landed. He's played for Mike Tomlin, Andy Reid, and now he's going to go play for Bill Belichick. That's he'll have a lot to talk about.
He's a good football player,
and he might end up coaching. You never know. Like with all of that acumen you're pulling in from all these different head coaches, like he's taking master's courses. So
I played for Juju.
Yeah, I would too. I'd play for Hines, even though like his XFL. Like, yeah, that didn't work out too well. Although Rod Woodson was like way worse. Like I think with the Vipers or he was the Vipers or was he?
Yeah, the Vipers. They were supposed to be nasty. The Vipers. He sucked.
And then what was Hines the Brahmas? Was he the San Antonio team? Yeah.
San Antonio.
Yeah. I mean, they weren't much better, but Hines was out there like yelling. He was going Bill Cowher style. One of those games. He had like the paper. I thought he was going to stuff it in the referee's pocket. Like he was pissed going into halftime. I remember it was like there was some penalty that wasn't called, and he was going off. It was like a good call or bad call.
I enjoyed watching Hines on the sidelines. Yeah. He definitely wasn't the worst coach in the league.
He could squeeze the effort out of me.
Yeah. Him and Anthony Becht looked like their teams really liked playing for them. Becht was the Battlehawks coach.
Oh, the Battlehawks. That team was pretty sick. They were just disappointment, but they were pretty sick.
That's where Hakeem Butler. That's where we got him from.
I know, right? Yeah, they were good offense. Okay, Jets. This is the one where everybody's like propping this up because of Aaron Rodgers. It's Garrett Wilson, Alan Lazard, like, I'm sorry, Alan Lazard does not move the needle for me. McCole Hardman is a guy that he's a potential guy. He's like he should be Tyreek Hill guy. Will he be healthy? Will he be there? They still have Corey Davis, Denzel Mims. They signed Randall Cobb. Guess who else is here? Deontay Spencer. Remember him? He was like the special teams kind of phenom guy. Yeah. Throwback from Steelers preseasons past. So, I mean, Garrett Wilson's a dude. I like Garrett Wilson. Alan Lazard, McCole Hardman, they're piecing some stuff together. An older Randall Cobb, he's somebody that Rodgers can trust. It's not a terrible room. I like the Steelers better here.
Wilson is the only one that I would say. Let me put it this way: of that room, Wilson's the only one that I would like try to actively make room for in the Steelers room. Pass on Alan Lazard. I usually don't like those types of receivers that he's by all accounts solid, Alan Lazard, but he doesn't do anything. Like, he has no trump cards. You know what I mean? He just doesn't stick out. He's a very average receiver. So pass on him. Randall Cobb's 1,000 years old. Pass on him. Corey Davis hasn't been good since his contract year with the Titans. Pass on him. Denzel Mims, I think he has like 2 catches on his NFL career. Pass on him.
Yeah.
So it's really just Garrett Wilson that I'm like, yeah, this guy's legit good. He won Rookie of the Year last year, so nothing new.
We're going to have a lot of that to say about the AFC South, I think. So the Texans, Nico Collins, John Mechie, Robert Woods. Robert Woods seems like he's always snake bitten with injuries. Noah Brown signed there. Tank Dell taken in the 3rd round. Xavier Hutchinson, 6th round. Amari Rogers, another guy from, mock drafts past. Steve Sims signed there from the formerly from the Steelers. Yeah, no, that just seems rough. It seems like they're like a big name guy that needs inserted in there to bring this whole group up. That's not Robert Woods, by the way. The Colts have Alec Pierce, Michael Pittman Jr. Michael Pittman Jr. is another guy. It just seems like he's never ascended where he needs to be. Isaiah McKenzie, he was good in Buffalo, but was he really that good in Buffalo though, or was it part of that system? I don't know. Josh Downs, who we liked, they took him in the 3rd round, but still, they have Brashad Perryman's like still hanging around. He's going to go to camp with them, it looks like. I don't know about that. Here's the scary one, bro. And I know I'm going to let you comment on everybody, but let's talk about Jacksonville. Calvin Ridley's going to come off of this suspension now. Zay Jones, Christian Kirk. Let's see who else is in here. Kind of like just a bunch of like everyday guys, but that's that top 3. That could be Zay Jones is always interesting, and he's another guy that bounces around. Can't figure out why. And let's finish off with the Titans. Traylon Burks, Nick Westbrine, I can never say this guy's name right. Ekine. And then Kyle Phillips, Colton Dell, a 7th round pick. Chris Moore, another guy that's kind of bounced around. He was with the Texans, believe also with the Ravens. Yeah, like most of these rooms are pretty pathetic outside of the Jaguars.
I would agree with that. For Titans receiver room, I wrote down Traylon Burks and Derrick Henry because they don't have anybody playing receiver for them. I know Burks was their 1st round pick last year, and he had some moments last year, so he gets my respect, but I couldn't tell you a single other person in that room, even though you just listed all of them.
That's bad, isn't it?
Yeah, dude. I mean, and the Texans, same deal. I think Mechie has a lot of talent. I think you want to talk about snake bitten by injuries. I can't wait to see him on the field if it ever happens, because I think he can be good, the former Alabama receiver. Yeah. But behind him, Tank Dell is a guy I liked this year. I could see him making some noise as another short, small guy, a la Calvin Austin. I expect Tank Dell to also be used in similar ways down there if he makes the team. Good news for Steve Sims. He should make this team. So he left a crowded room to go down to a very uncrowded room. The Colts, I'll pass on the Colts room as far as being considered better than the Steelers, because I'm not a big Pittman fan, similar to you. He just doesn't really excite me at all. I know he's got good hands, a good route runner, but he's like a rich man's Alan Lazard. It just doesn't really feel like a guy who can take over a game. And if he's your number 1 receiver, you don't really have a number 1 receiver. I like Josh Downs. Josh Downs, you can categorize him with Tank Dell from the Texans, where, like, by definition, I do like him because I thought he could be a guy the Steelers may get, but complete unknown coming in as a mid-round rookie. The Jaguars room is good. I'll admit that. I think the Calvin Ridley edition is one that's not being talked about enough, personally. I think the only thing being talked about is his how he got caught gambling. So that is funny in itself. My brother in arms, but he is a good receiver at the end of the day, and I think he fits the offense really well down there because who was good for them last year? Well, Christian Kirk and Zay Jones, who Calvin Ridley is similar to those two receivers in his game. So I think he'll come in and fit in with the offense and with Trevor Lawrence pretty seamlessly. Zay Jones, by all accounts, before this season, had not lived up to his second round pedigree during his NFL career, but he really kind of found himself in Jacksonville and revitalized his career. And Christian Kirk, when he signed that contract, we all laughed at him, but he had a pretty solid season down there for the Jaguars. So I think their room is pretty good, but I still will take the Steelers room over theirs. I don't think it's anything better than what we have, but it's clearly the best room in the AFC South.
Fair enough, man. Let's go to the West. Okay, trying to keep this in. We haven't even gotten the NFC. So maybe
it's hard because it's more than quarterbacks because there's like multiple dudes to talk about.
Yeah, it's true. And you know what? It's almost like geez, maybe we should do the second half of this. But you know what? If we have a little bit of a long show, then this will be the show for the week. Well, it's I'm just looking at the timer here. Broncos, they got a lot of people on this roster, man. Okay, so let's take a look at this. It is Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, Jerry Jeudy, Marquez Callaway, Marvin Mims, KJ Hamler. They even have Lil Jordan Humphrey.
Great name.
Yeah, it is a great name. I want to be Lil Joe Kuzma. So, but I'm not Lil, so I can't be Biggie Joe.
Yeah, not as common, but it's been done before.
It could be done. That's actually a pretty good group, to be honest. They've just all underachieved.
Yep.
Chiefs, Marquez Valdez Scantling. That's like a law firm name right there. Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore, I like Sky Moore. Rashee Rice. I mean, these could be kind of interesting. They also have John Ross, if you remember him, one of the Bengals.
Justin Ross.
No. They also have Justin Ross, but they also have John Ross, the former first round pick of the Bengals, the guy who had the fastest time, the fastest 40. What year was that? I
thought he was out of the league. 2018.
Probably was. It's not the worst group, so to speak. A lot of young guys. They can make up for that with coaching and the quarterback, obviously. Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, Hunter Renfrow, Keelan Cole, Philip Dorsett, Trey Tucker. That's the room for the Las Vegas Raiders. And then I'm
sorry, who was it? Devontae Renfrow. Who was in between them?
Jacoby Myers.
Right. Thank you.
And then the Chargers, get down here real quick. Got to write down this number. Act fast or the offer expires. If you call within 20 minutes, we'll send in the free chef's knife set at no additional cost. Just pay process and handling. Mike Williams, Quentin Johnson, Keelan Allen. I'm tripping over my words here. Is Johnston, not Johnson. And then let's see who else we got here. Darius Davis, they just drafted. John Hightower's floating around here somewhere. So
it's really just that top three for them.
Yeah, but that's a good top three.
Yeah, no, that's probably the best room in the division.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. You got anything else for the AFC West, or we want to just jump right to the NFC East?
I'll say just something short about all the groups there. The Broncos are the biggest group of chest pounders in the league. I know that like Jerry Jeudy thinks he's really good, and he is talented, but he hasn't done anything in his NFL career, in my opinion. Patrick, good receiver when he's on the field, but he's been faced with a couple injury problems as of late. Same with KJ Hamler. And Sutton isn't really a big talker. He's solid, but they've suffered through really poor quarterback play as of late. Talented group, but I wouldn't take them over the Steelers group. The Chiefs group I call them if everything goes according to plan, it can be really good.
Yeah.
Because by all accounts, Kadarius Toney's getting better with them. Sky Moore should have a way better rookie year or second year. Not that he had a bad rookie season, but when you look at the other rookies like Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, George Pickens, Sky Moore kind of like fell to the wayside as far as last year was concerned. But I think he can still be really good. I like Rice, their second round pick out of SMU. I got him in Dynasty. So rooting for him
already.
yeah, we drafted that early. That was like a week or two after the draft was done. Just because Dynasty's a different beast. You get those guys in because you still have your team from last year. You just want to get the rookies in and get those added to your team. So Rice was my my second round pick, similar to the Chiefs. I also evaluated him the same way they did. And Justin Ross is their camp phenom right now, or camp hasn't started, but OTA phenom right now, where people think that he'll be something good now in his second year out of Clemson after not playing at all last year. The Raiders only have 3 guys that are proven. Devontae Adams, Renfro, Myers. I think Devontae Adams is clearly really good, but the other 2, I don't really have much to say about them. They're solid. They're a solid pair of hands, but not much else there. And the Chargers room is the best with Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and the first round pick, Johnston. I think they have the best room in the division. And outside of them, I would take the Steelers over the other 3 rooms, but the Chargers room probably has them beat still currently.
Yeah, no, that's fair. How about them Cowboys? Michael Gallup, Brandon Cooks, CeeDee Lamb. Those are all dudes too. I really like that room. I think like Brandon Cooks has had a hell of a career for being like they passed the potato with that guy so many times. So it's like, here you go, I don't want him. Here you go, I don't want him. I don't get it. He like produces everywhere he's at. So
and CeeDee's the top 5 receiver right now, top 6, 7 if you want to argue it, but he's top of the league.
CeeDee's good. He's real good. Giants have Isaiah Hodgins, Darius Slayton, Paris Campbell. They still have I thought maybe Wan'Dale Robinson, Sterling Shepard still hanging around there. Is that guy ever healthy? They added Jamison Crowder, Jalen Hyatt added in the 3rd round.
I do like Jalen Hyatt. I should say that. I do think Hyatt was a good pick on their part, a smart pick, because they don't have a lot of star power there.
Did they even have a wide receiver 2? They don't even have a wide receiver 1. That's like a really odd room. And then you go to the Eagles, and they have AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, Olamide Zaccheaus that they brought in from Atlanta. They've got let me see who else is sitting here. Quez Watkins still kind of hanging around. Greg Ward still hanging around. So I mean, but AJ Brown and Smith pretty good in their own regard.
Yeah.
Washington, Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel. You're always expecting that group to maybe be much better than what they have been, and it's really relied on quarterback play, and hard to evaluate when you had Carson Wentz out there last year among Taylor Heineke and others. So done with the NFC East for my part, man. I ain't got a whole lot to say about that other than the Cowboys group looks pretty good there, and I'll take the Eagles too. That matter.
Yeah. Eagles and Commanders are funny enough. They're both top heavy with like 2 elite dudes. AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and then Terry McLaurin and Dotson, their first round pick last year. I think he's going to be really good, especially because he was good last year with bad quarterback play. Same with McLaurin for his whole career. But because they only have 2 guys that I like at all in each room, I'll put the Steelers above them. And that may catch some flack, especially with the Eagles room, but they really only have 2 guys that I like a lot in both of those rooms. Cowboys, I'll bow down. I'll bend the knee to the Cowboys room because they have 3. The Giants room is a joke.
All right, NFC North. We're going to get into some fun ones now. So the Bears have DJ Moore, Chase Claypool, Darnell Mooney, Equimenius St. Brown, Tyler Scott taken in the 4th round. Moore's good. I can't judge what Claypool's going to be, and I don't know what Mooney is either. I don't know if that's just a product of the offense and not being very strong. The Lions, Josh Reynolds, Marvin Jones, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Antoine Green, a 7th round pick, Khalif Raymond. That's kind of a goofy room too. Like, I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's really just St. Brown.
Yeah, really St. Brown. I mean, St. Brown's been he's a surprise, man. He's a fourth
Yeah,
round
he's
guy
good. I like him.
that's really produced. The Packers. I mean, this is why Rodgers got out of town. Christian Watson. We were talking about this the other day. Romeo Dobbs. They drafted Jaden Reed in the second round. Dontavian Wicks, 5th round. Grant Dubose in the 7th round. And they have a bunch of tight ends, I guess, that's going to shore up the rest of that. That's what we didn't talk about with the Chiefs was when you have Travis Kelce, the rest of those guys, you should just throw Kelce in with the wide receiver group. That would bump it up. And then the Vikings, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and KJ Osborne, along with Jalen Rager's still hanging around there. That's a pretty wicked group there if Addison lives up
that's easily the best room of the division.
Yeah.
It's top heavy because you got the best receiver in the league, in my opinion, leading it with Justin Jefferson. And then you've got Osborne, who burst onto the scene last year. He's a really good guy to root for, too. He's a great guy off the field, by all accounts, and really shined last year in that number 3, fringe number 2 role for them. And Jordan Addison, I was a fan of his coming out of school, so I do think he'll be a good match for Jefferson. And again, whether or not he'll be the 3 to Osborne or the 2, I love that group. It's a sound group right there, led by elite talent and then very, very good supporting cast. And no one knows how good Addison could even be yet, but that's a great room. And then, funny enough, the rest of the division, the NFC North there, each room really only has one guy that I feel confident enough to say that I know they'd be good elsewhere, i.e. with the Steelers. Give me Christian Watson on the Packers. Give me Amon-Ra St. Brown from the Lions, and give me DJ Moore from the Bears. I used to be a Darnell Mooney guy. I had him like in every fantasy league last year, and he's solid at times, but I don't know if he'll ever creep into like a household name kind of role, especially being a part of an offense where I don't know how many balls there will be to go around for that receiving room, because a big part of their offense is going to be, think Baltimore Ravens, think Lamar Jackson. That's how they're going to want to utilize Justin Fields and maximize his ability. So I don't know, like DJ Moore will be fed, his mouth will get food because they traded for him and made a point to try and get him and invested in him. So whether or not it's going to be Matt Eberflus or Ryan Pace, the GM, somebody's going to be saying from a room somewhere, hey, get DJ Moore involved. We spent a 1st-round pick on him.
Yep.
The rest of the room, I couldn't say as much for. Claypool may have that argument on his side because they want to get him involved more. But, yeah, I only like the Vikings room of that whole division more than the Steelers room.
Yeah, I agree. I feel bad for Claypool. He's probably in a bad situation, but he could have caught a couple of Pickett's balls there or not had him picked and would still have a job maybe. But then you don't find out maybe about Pickens or Austin or somebody like that. So it all works out and you end up with Joey Porter Jr. So thank you. NFC South, these rooms, they're all over the board. You got Drake London, Mac Hollins, and Scott Miller for the Falcons. You have Terrace Marshall Jr., DJ Chark, and Adam Thielen for the Carolina Panthers, along with Jonathan Mingo, who was selected in the 2nd round. Laviska Shenault is also part of that group. Then you got the Saints. Michael Thomas, who has burned me in fantasy enough times, cannot stay healthy after landing that big contract, it seems. And like that would put him over the top if he could stay healthy. But they have Chris Olave. And just because dude hasn't been healthy there, Thomas, I can't take that group. You got Rashid Shaheed. You've got A.T. Perry's a 6th-round pick. Yeah, there's not a whole lot. James Washington signed there, formerly of the Steelers. There's not a whole lot of depth if Thomas isn't healthy and you just double Olave. Like what are they going to do? I mean, Derek Carr is just going to be throwing picks like he had been with the Raiders. It's just inevitable. The Buccaneers always looked like they had a pretty decent group here. This will be interesting to monitor. Mike Evans, Father Time's eventually going to catch up here, but this guy, he's pretty much got a Hall of Fame career, I think, carved out there down there in Tampa Bay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think quietly, even though they won a Super Bowl, and it's like Tom Brady got a lot of the praise there. This guy has never missed 1,000-yard season since 2014.
He's the poster child for quiet Hall of Fame career,
Yeah.
I would say. And winning a ring with Tom Brady all but stamps his ticket to Canton. People probably listening to this very show, we have the best listeners in the world, but not everybody, they probably hear Mike Evans, Hall of Famer. Yeah, right. But you just mentioned what I was going to mention. He's never not had 1,000 yards every year of his career. That's insane.
Yeah, 9 years going on 10 now, and that's crazy. He's over 10,000 for his career. Only 6 touchdowns last year, but 13 and 14 the years before. And then, of course, it gets overshadowed the lack of production where they were bad there before Brady comes in. 5 TDs, 8 TDs, 8 TDs, and everybody talks about DeAndre Hopkins. It's like, look at Mike Evans, man. That guy's he's put it together with some not the best supporting cast maybe at all times. And he's there with Russell Gage, Chris Godwin, who I can never seem to figure out. They have a 6th-round pick in Trey Palmer. And yeah, that kind of rounds out the room in that division. That division, there isn't a room there that I take over the Steelers. It was just like what you had previously said before. We just talked about Evans, Olave. You've got some like headliners that are guys that yeah, definitely you would take them if they were available, but wholesale, I don't like none of those rooms on paper. None of those rooms on paper over the Steelers.
We're in agreement, my friend. It really is just, I'm writing each name down as you say them, kind of as an exercise for myself, and then I'll circle guys, and I'm like, yeah, this guy's clearly good, or this guy's great. And for the Falcons, it's just Drake London coming off of his rookie year. I think he's a good player, as most people do, but Mac Hollins, Scotty Miller, I mean, they're nobodies. I hate to say it, but the Panthers have really nobody. Because Thielen's past his prime. Respect to him, but he's past his prime. I think he just wanted to go to a warm weather state and play out his last few years. Chark is solid. I think Mingo can be something, but nothing there to trade off what the Steelers have for. The Saints, it's really just Olave because, like you said, Michael Thomas, who knows if he's even going to play. If he does, great player. But at this point, it's almost more fairy tale than fact that the guy's ever going to suit up again for the Saints. And the Buccaneers, yeah, I love Mike Evans, but that's really it. Godwin's a good player, but he's really been snake bitten these past few years. Russell Gage hasn't worked out. So the Steelers come on top of this one again.
Well, let's go to the NFC West and ask.
Come out on top of this one again.
Well, yeah. And we're going to see, but right now we're trending at least a top 10 room for the Steelers with the wide receivers.
I would say so.
Yeah, because we've had the Bengals, the Bills, Cowboys, a few others. So maybe not top 5, but
Vikings.
Definitely, Vikings, definitely a top 10. For sure, I think. These rooms look like a mess in certain instances. Like the Cardinals, Hollywood Brown, Rondell Moore, Greg Dortch. I mean, I know Greg Dortch was doing some things, but do you really expect it? Michael Wilson taken in the 3rd round. Zach Pascal is a veteran that's hanging around there. The Rams, Ben Skoranek, Van Jefferson to pair up with Cooper Kupp. Now you've got like your marquee player there, but Van Jefferson has been a little underwhelming. Ben Skoranek is like, I'm sorry, maybe it's just my little white guy wide receiver type thing, but he's like a Ryan Switzer, you know what I mean? And it's like they're scrappy and you could get the job done there, but this isn't like a guy that here's a guy. They can't all
be Cooper Kupp.
No, you can't be Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp is like the opposite of that. Cooper Kupp's my FCS dude. Like, Eastern Washington. I watched him when he was in college, and I was hoping wherever he went in the NFL that he was still going to be able to get it done. And I couldn't be more happier to see him have like a very solid career. But Ben Skoranek, 39 catches for 376 yards. That's 9.6 a catch. It's not no touchdowns. So, and he had 11 for 133 the year before that. So he's, you're expecting a lot of production out of a guy that hasn't produced. I know we still have some question marks with the Steelers, but geez, George Pickens and Deontay Johnson do more than that. Allen Robinson has done more than that in his career as a veteran. I think still will do more than that and did more than that with that very same Rams teams last year, despite all of their quarterback issues. So I'm confident in saying that one is like, 2 down on the NFC West. The 49ers, Brandon Ayuk, where did he come from? Deebo Samuel, Juwan Jennings, just whack the microphone here. Let's see. Chris Conley, Ray McLeod, Ronnie Bell's a 7th rounder. Really? Willie Snead? I think I did see that in the headlines. Willie Snead's going to be trying to do something there. So,
you know what that is? Willie Snead played quarterback in college, so they're just covering all their bases. The Niners. They're making sure what happened last year in the playoffs does not happen again, ever.
Yeah. Well, the emergency rule should probably help. Here's a quarterback room. Here's a wide receiver room. We talked about this a little bit with the quarterbacks. That's where I was headed. The brain's not wired today, man. You know what it is? I've not had enough coffee. I did not have enough coffee today. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Jackson Smith, and Jigba for the Seahawks. That's a room I could take over the Steelers. I don't care about the depth. It's like when you got 3 guys like that at the top half, definitely.
Three is about the threshold we've been operating off of during this whole countdown. Is if they have 3 established dudes, it's hard to take the Steelers over that because we really only have 2. Robinson is established, but we have to see him in a Steeler uniform. So we're like a fringe 3 established room. Whereas if there's only 2 in other rooms, I give the Steelers a little bit of benefit of the doubt. You heard me say that with the Eagles room. Like clearly A.J. Brown is better than anything we have. And Devontae Smith is a player as well. But because they only have 2 dudes in that room, I'm willing to still look at the Steelers a little bit in the same breath as the Eagles room. This division, though, it's all the different flavors because with the LA Rams, you only got 1 guy, Cooper Kupp, so pass. The Cardinals have no guys, pass. And the Niners have 2 and a half. I like Ayuk. I like Deebo Samuel. Everybody likes Deebo Samuel. And then I think Ray McLeod showed last year that it wasn't some fluke being a highlighted part of the Steelers offense when he was here because he did show up for them at random times last year. But of the division, it's the Seahawks and everybody else. DK Metcalf, Lockett, and then Smith and Jigba. I think that's a good trio, and they're the headliner of the division. And they probably do rank ahead of the Steelers right now as well because DK and Lockett have just done it longer and more consistently than Pickens and Deontay have. And then Smith and Jigba, the potential is sky high for him. Whereas R3, Allen Robinson, Calvin Austin, it's close, but give me the Seahawks.
Yeah, I would have took Smith and Jigba if for the Steelers room. I'd take all 3 of those guys. There's no doubt about it. So, and I would make room for all 3 of those guys. Like, who would you force out of the picture there? I don't know. Allen Robinson probably. It'd be a little easier to say for sure. I know some people would be like, oh, just get rid of Deontay and then just keep George Pickens. But it's like, no, I'm just looking to get rid of one of the 3 that we just mentioned at the top. That's assuming Calvin Austin doesn't outright win that job over the veteran. But that wraps it up. There's no other teams to go for here. And just one, I think like a little bit of just a bonus tidbit. I know we're up against it here, but Hakeem Butler, where do we put Hakeem Butler in the grand scheme of things? There's a lot of people already ready to christen this guy as one of those 5 or 6 that makes the roster for the Steelers. And
a lot of these people, like one of them isn't sitting across from you right now.
Well, that's why I'm asking, bro. Like I gotta get your opinion on there because we talked about earlier. So we've got 4 deep when you're taking Johnson and you're taking Johnson, Pickens, Robinson, Austin. Okay, if Austin wins the kick return job, punt return duty. I should just say punt return or returner duties. He might not be an actual kick returner. Returner. Yeah, return guy. Then, okay, Gunner's out of the picture, so you don't have to worry about Gunner. Miles Boykin's probably on this roster as a special teamer. Hakeem Butler, that 6th guy that, or maybe he's really that 5th guy because then Boykin's really the 6th guy. It forces out Anthony Miller, he could beat out Cody White. It's exciting. We know that he tore it up in the XFL. Maybe he's one of these late bloomers that just, had to get it maybe mature, had to get in the right opportunity and situation and is turning his career around and maybe he'll make some impact. But I don't know that he leapfrogs like over Austin or Robinson necessarily. I think that would take some time. Maybe somebody else gets hurt that's in front of him. But on the 53, okay. You could sell me on that with 4 or with even 5 wide receivers, possibly, especially if he could play some special teams.
He can be the 5 if Miles Boykin gets hurt, or I'm not rooting for that, or if he displays some kind of special teams ability during the preseason that I have not seen yet. He can do that because I definitely didn't know last year going into the season that Miles Boykin was as big of a special teams demon as he showed to be. So by all accounts, Boykin can certainly show that as well if he's able to. But I think best case scenario for him, most realistic case scenario for him is the Steelers end up keeping 6 receivers and he's that 6th. I think Gunner is as good as gone if Calvin Austin shows any shot at all at being able to hold down the return job. Their 2 careers right now are linked. If Austin can show in camp that he can be the return guy, there's no need to keep Gunner. See ya, pal. Behind Gunner, Anthony Miller, he's a great story as far as a guy who keeps trying and like having good camps, but he keeps getting hurt when push comes to shove. And the Steelers have kept ties with him, but I don't feel like he is a threat to Butler making the team. And Cody White, he's the one guy who keeps coming back, and the Steelers seem to have these types of guys on the roster every so often as a guy who's in every single camp, makes it through camp, gets cut, and then gets brought back for practice squad. That may just be how Cody White's career goes forever. So I don't think he is the stiffest competition for Butler either. I think the door isn't wide open for Butler to make the team, but it's slightly ajar. There's a chance for him to make it, but it's dependent upon all of these factors because I don't think there's a shot in hell that he storms onto the scene this year, as much as I like him, and succeeds George Pickens, Deontay Johnson, and Allen Robinson, let alone Calvin Austin. But he can provide competition for a guy like Miles Boykin to fight for that 5th spot if he shows special teams value. What he shows on offense, that's what people like me want to see. I want to see him with the ball in his hands and making plays. But because the Steelers' receiver room is top heavy and they really already have their offensive components figured out in a sense, he may need to make his mark on special teams.
Yeah,
but he can make the team.
Yep, I agree. If he's got any special teams, because Boykin is strictly special teams, and he's a run blocker. Run blocker, but I think Butler could get it. I liked Butler coming out of college. Is this thing doing? I was trying to get some stats on him.
I think we're all kind of desensitized to larger receivers, but he sticks out in a group standing next to George Pickens.
Yeah, 6'5", 227. That's what I was looking for was his official height because I knew he was bigger than just about everybody else. Like Anthony Miller's like, 5'11" with lifts in his shoes. So, unfortunately, as much as I like him, and I know, Tina Rivers that's here with us, big into the Iowa sports scene there. Iowa State, that she is really, really pushed on Butler. So we'll see what ends up happening there. And, stranger things have happened. That's why I love, even though we were talking off the air about this, we like the XFL maybe better than USFL, but I love USFL. Blah. But it gives some of these players a second chance, another opportunity. It gives them opportunities to grow or showcase what they may be capable of doing. And now, like otherwise, this dude's just selling insurance or bagging groceries or whatever he might be doing. Other than playing football. So excited to have him on the roster.
Hey, Cam Kelly should, by all accounts, still be on the Steelers, but because after he made the team, after coming out of the AFL or whatever that was.
AAF, San Diego AAF. Fleet, I believe. Yeah,
he got cut, but the Steelers have kept these guys around before. J.C. Eisenhower was from a sub league, and they ended up keeping him. Mm-hmm. So it's happened before that guys who have an uphill battle, by all accounts, they still make the team. The Steelers have open minds to these kinds of things.
Well, Birmingham Iron, and then that was where J.C. Hassenauer came from. And don't forget, Tommy Maddox was the XFL MVP as quarterback just before Big Ben ends up coming to Pittsburgh.
James Harrison played in Europe.
Yeah, James Harrison off and on a roster and with the Steelers and the Ravens. I mean, he's what a story that is. But yeah, going over to NFL Europe or Europa or whatever it was at that point, and still, just putting things on tape and eventually getting that opportunity, kept grinding. So who's to say Hakeem Butler can't be one of those guys? However, we're up against it. So Folks, thanks for joining us. No special end credits today. No special end credits. In case you missed it, Zach, there was a show where Brian kept like talking through like the music and stuff. So I tacked it on in the end. He was like, "Can we do one of those Marvel end credit things?" So like, yeah, let's see who lets this thing actually roll all the way to the end. And he had a giveaway for a few of the people that actually commented, or he was given a heads up for a giveaway. So anyways, that was kind of neat. None of that today. None of those shenanigans. We've already gone long enough. Thank you, Zach, for joining us today and offering all of your insights and opinions. And, I'll give myself a pat on the back, too. This is a fun show. We like talking about receivers. So until next time.
Best position in football.
Yes, baby. I don't know. I still like playing with the D lineman, dude, like on Madden. So I won't manually catch the passes either. But I like playing with the running back, defensive tackles, defensive ends. That's where it's at. So
quarterback.
Yeah. Quarterback. Yeah, of course. Got to have the quarterback. I'll tell you what, man, you go back to one of those old Maddens with Michael Vick on the cover and just like run around with him. It was like unstoppable in those games. So, but I'm not going to get into that anymore. We're up against it. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for listening or watching wherever you might be. My name's Joe. His name's Zach. Until next time, whenever that may be, this is the off season. We still found a way to talk about wide receivers for a very long time here. So thanks for hanging with us. Till next time, we encourage all of our viewers and listeners out there to be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.